welcome back to Latter-day Women Warriors. Hey, we had a great discussion that we wanted to just go ahead and make a video. So here we're going to be talking about our experiences as we have been in the room or been close by when someone that means a lot to us has transitioned to the next world and has moved on, and how we felt and what we think is happening at that time, and some of those sacred experiences that we've had at that moment. And so we just wanted to go ahead and make that its own video. So we hope you enjoyed us. And we're thankful you're here. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. And let's continue to have the discussions that will bring us closer to Christ. So hope you enjoy it.
So I don't usually talk about this, but hey, you know, for our listeners, you're going to get a tidbit here. So for me, my dad, part of my life story is that my dad died when I was 20 from prostate cancer. And his death hit me very, very hard. My parents were older when they got married. And my dad died when he was only 64. So at this point, I'm about to turn 50 here in a little bit. And that means that I have lived way longer without my father than I ever did with him. And that has always haunted me a little bit and made me really sad because I don't have a ton of memories of him and experiences, and I don't have a moment where we had a conversation and I had that life lesson or something. But I did get the opportunity to actually be in the bedroom because we used hospice towards the end, and to be in the room in our house where we had a hospital bed and everything set up when he did die. And being a member of the church and understanding that we do have a place to go afterwards and that family is involved and possible work is involved. Like we have these concepts that we've been taught. Being in that bedroom was like being in a space where as I felt him, as I heard him take his last intake of breath, it was like his exhale was his spirit leaving his body. Mm-hmm. I felt his spirit leave his body. Mm-hmm. And it was the most intense spiritual, one of the most intense spiritual experiences I've had. It was as if my body was on fire and the room was on fire. And I would have sworn that the veil was broken. And if I had eyes to see, I would have seen him enter that realm. And I knew that his sister was greeting him first. I knew that his mom and dad were there. I knew that his dog Duke growing up was there. I could tell you that I understood that his extended family, everyone was there to greet him. And I knew it. I could feel them there, ready to almost give him a hand and bring him through. And once that happened and I felt him totally pass into that next existence, it was like kind of how Joseph Smith described the angel Moroni's appearance. All of a sudden, it was brighter and brighter and brighter, and then it dimmed. And that's how the spirit in the room felt. The spirit in the room then kind of dimmed back to normal. And I was like, I was not prepared for that experience. Because the spirit was so intense. It's like I could feel all of that and the love on the other side. And it changed, I think it changed the way I thought about that place. Not that my ideas really shifted. It was the reality of it that I think just got ingrained. And from that moment on, as I've continued in life, I personally have had experiences of talking to my father. And it's been interesting as I've welcomed those experiences to continue a connection with him. It's interesting to me that when I've had people in my life, friends, or actual family members who have passed away, at some point, all of a sudden I'm walking in the random part of my day. It's been maybe a week. And all of a sudden I get this vision in my head, and my dad, it's like I can picture my dad going into the family reunion and saying, hi, you knew my daughter, or you knew, like, and him just saying hi and welcoming them while they have a family reunion. It's happened 3 times. And one of them was with your mom, Myrna.
Yeah. You told me that.
And it was a surprise. I'm just living my day. And my dad, I can picture it in my head in this open space. And I didn't know this guy had talked about it, but I pictured this open space. And it's like my dad's just kind of like walking up and being like, hi, this is who I am. And going, oh my gosh, I know who that person is per se, because your mom now knows more about your life.
Yeah.
And going, oh, well, that's great. And having a short conversation, but he always has that feeling of like, I don't want to interrupt for very long because you're meeting so many people today. He's in for a second. And it's funny because my dad's a really quiet guy and I didn't picture him that social. But apparently in death, tends to be social. Now, someone could say, oh, that doesn't mean that that's true and that's really happening. Maybe you're just having this envisioning. No, I'm telling you that in my heart and in my mind, the Spirit each time testifies to me that my dad is letting me see a little picture of heaven and about those families and people coming together. Mm-hmm. Especially like you said, because so far everyone has been a person who I know understands the gospel of Jesus Christ. So they're not in an orientation building. They are probably right in the garden seeing their family.
Thanks for sharing that. It's interesting to be there when someone actually passes, not in a near-death experience, but actually passes from this world for good. Mm-hmm. I was there when my mother-in-law did. And I kind of feel like those are moments that allow us to bridge our life with the next world, mm-hmm. Without having to go through a near-death experience. It's that same bridge that helps us to realize that there is, another world, another realm, so to speak.
Were you there, Angie, when either of your parents passed away?
I was in me and my brothers, and some of my aunts and my uncles were in the room when my father passed. My mom was alone when she passed. Mm-hmm. And my poor brother found her. That was both deaths were unexpected. My dad's death, they both had health issues. With my dad, he took a really bad fall, and he struggled with mental health issues like the last 20 years of his life, because he never really wanted to be around too much anyway. And when he took that fall, his body was just so broken, and the work that it would have taken for him to get back any sort of health would have been astronomical, and he already didn't have it in him to keep wanting to live anyway. So it was a really special moment to see him pass. It was a hard moment for all of us, because we didn't want to see him go. We wanted him to be here, right? But we all understood. My oldest brother gave him a blessing and basically said, if you choose to go, leave in peace. We're going to be okay. And that's what my dad chose to do. So With my dad, I was always worried of his passing because he struggled so much in the last several years of his life. And both of my parents in their own way were always very, very dedicated to the gospel. My dad's the type of person who would, read his scriptures every single day while blow drying his hair. He did. He was dedicated to the gospel. But I always had this fear that because he struggled so much in the last years of his life, that what state would he be in when he got to the other side? Where would he be? And did he endure to the end?
Mm.
And I had my bishop at the time give me a blessing. They gave me a lot of peace, which was, your dad is now in a place where he can see more clearly. And he understands things more clearly. And he's back into a place where he can progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I needed to hear. I love my dad and I wish he was still here. But for the last many years of his life, he really wasn't progressing. He really wasn't able to be here and present in many ways. And if he is back in a place on the other side where he can be at peace and he can be happier and he can feel like he's progressing towards something, then I'll see you in the next life, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost seems like we've changed our podcast here. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think I need to say, and hopefully I don't get in trouble with family. But my mother-in-law was struggling. She had emphysema the last little bit of her life. And even with that, she chose not to stop smoking. And we'd have to remind her to take her oxygen out of her nose before she had a brush and go out.
Good family.
What was so really funny was you go to the house and there was a oxygen in use sign on the door that says no smoking, oxygen in use, and you go inside and she's smoking. I was like, that works well, Mom. Yeah, she was an amazing lady. I love her to death. But we always had to remind her, because you just begin to not really notice that you have this in here, right? You just, it's just there all the time, right? And so we'd have to say, well, wait, you take that out before you light that out. I don't want to be blown clear across to the other side of the street. But she ended up in the hospital. She was unconscious. And they had her on the ventilator and she wasn't breathing for herself. And we talked a little bit about this time. And I knew she was nervous about it. She was kind of afraid. And I knew inside that she didn't want to be in that place. She didn't want to be intubated, but her DNR wasn't seen and she was already intubated and they didn't want to undo it.
Right.
So I knew that's not where she wanted to be. And they told us all we needed to come see her, that she wasn't going to last. And so we were all in the room. And the doctor wanted to talk to us. So we all were saying goodbye to her and going into the counseling room where they put the family in to talk, right?
Right.
And so we all leaned over and gave her a kiss. And so I leaned over and I whispered in her ear, I said, Mom, if you are ready to go. We will take care of Dad. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of us and we'll have it taken care of. Love you. But if you want to, then go ahead and move on. We've got everything taken care of. And it was by the time I think my husband said goodbye and one other person said goodbye, and she basically You could hear that last breath, and then my brother-in-law ran and got the nurse, and she came back and she said, yeah, she's gone. And just that feeling in that room was like, I felt like, oh, she's not struggling now. I'm so happy for her not to have to struggle. Well, my husband's family are not members of our church. They are Catholic. And some of them really had a very, very hard time. And I felt guilty because I was happy that she wasn't struggling. I wasn't sad. I mean, I miss her, and I can't wait I can't wait, but when I get to see her again, it will be amazing. Right. But, I felt really bad for them with how much they were, his brothers and sisters were his brother was all upset at the hospital because they intubated her, and he was just like wanting to get a lawyer. And I was just like, she's gone, let her rest, And there's so much of a difference when you know there is something after this life, and that it is so much better than this life. I mean, even if you have an easy, good life here, that next one is, to go back home is so much more peaceful than here. That I'm like, why would someone not want to go? And I think that's why these people don't want to come back. They want to stay there because it's so amazing. And so sometimes I think about it and I kind of feel guilty that I gave her permission, but I think that knowing her well enough, she would not have been happy to have to suffer any longer. And I know she was worried about Dad and worried about, were we going to be able to take care of him, what was going on. And so sometimes I think it's good to let them know it's okay to go, because if they experience it, they want to stay, right? And if it's their time and it's okay for them to stay, sometimes it's good to just whisper in their ear and say, we've got it here. Because I think sometimes, the nurse there talked to us and said sometimes they hang on because they think that someone's going to have a hard time with it, and they don't want them to have a hard time. But yet they're ready. They're ready to take that next step. So,
so for me, another story for say a couple of comments. One is when my dad was in the hospital before he was brought home with hospice, you meet with the hospice caseworker. Mm-hmm. And she made the comment asking if my mom, what we needed and what type of support we needed. They go kind of through their list of the services that they offer. And when she asked the question is that, kind of religious wise, is there any religious things that we need to be made aware of? My mom said that we were LDS. And she was like, oh, she goes, there's always a difference when I work with LDS people. There's something different about you guys when it comes to this end of life. I don't know what it is, but she could tell that there was a different attitude we had, that there was just something. And I thought that was interesting for a woman in her field to be like, well, just families, there's just something going on there that you'd all take this better. Mm-hmm. And it's also interesting to me because I actually had that same moment, Myrna, that you just described with your mother-in-law and whispering in her ear, because probably, 2013, so almost 10 years now. My mom was at a friend's house and she had a cardiac event where her heart just stopped, like out of nowhere. Mid-conversation with a friend turned back at her. They were working on genealogy. Her friend turned over and was like, something's not right. Why isn't she answering me? And found that she wasn't breathing. And she ended up being I guess, dead for probably 10 to 12 minutes without anyone doing CPR or anything on her. Eventually she ended up in the hospital, in the ICU. She was ventilated and all of that. And we got taken into that room of saying, we take the intubation tube out, and either she's going to breathe or she's not. But they all looked at us in the private room like we're not hopeful. And both my sister and I whispered in her ear, like, we will be okay. If this is holding you here because you're worried, we'll be okay. And it was like because I had this certain experience with my dad, and being there with my mom, it just had a feeling like she wasn't there. And all I could say is that I kept having this thought that she's there talking to my dad, and he's filling her in on a few things. And then she came back and had a complete 100% recovery back to normal. The doctors cannot explain it. In fact, her pulmonologist actually said, all I can say is it's an actual miracle. But she often wonders why she did not have a near-death experience. Why that didn't happen for her. And I'm like, well, I think it might be that something my dad said you weren't to remember on your way back. Or there was something to it, because she has come back and now it's been a decade now. And so obviously there's something still for her to do on this earth. And yet it's that curiosity of what was it like over there, because she was completely dead.
Yeah. So have any of you guys experienced this? I mean, we've just totally taken it to another place, but we're taking it there. With my mom, I wasn't there. By the time I got to the hospital, she'd already passed on. But from, gosh, when did we go to Disneyland? Was that a week later?
It was a week later, yes.
Yeah, a week later on my way home, I had an experience with my mom. And from that point on, for about a month and a half, it was very weird, because I felt like I had one foot in this world and the other foot in the afterworld. Because I had a lot of experience and felt my mom very, very close, and others in my family very close. It was just like I was just kind of like in these two different places for about a month and a half. I don't know why. I didn't have anything huge to share about the time, but it did feel like I was peaceful. I didn't have any stress. I didn't worry about anything. Every once in a while, I would receive some information from my mom, and I would digest it, and I would say, okay, it sounds good. I would feel my aunt around. And it just was, it was weird, because it wasn't like I was seeing anybody. Right. It was just, I was feeling them with me, right? They were like with me. In fact, I was thinking at one point, I said, I really hope that you stay outside the bathroom. You're always with me, but I don't want you in this room with me. But I don't know whether they did or not. But it just felt like they were with me everywhere I went. Have you guys ever experienced that with any of these kind of things?
Can't say that I have.
I have, because like I was saying, some of these experiences that I've had with my dad, there have been times when I have literally felt like he was sitting next to me to bring me comfort. I couldn't see him, but I will tell you, I know that he was sitting there. I know that he was with me. And the way I experience him a lot of the times is in my mind, kind of like when you are praying, or at least for me when I'm praying, and you have that experience of getting words into your mind that aren't yours, and you know that they're not yours, because most of the time you're not that smart. And or a perspective that you never considered, and you know that it's from God, the Spirit, whomever, it's from that place. And I have that experience every once in a while with my dad, that I know that that's my dad's voice and that he's the one talking to me. And on occasion, after someone's died, I had an experience with my one aunt. My mom had two sisters, and both of them have passed. My mom's the youngest, and she's about to turn 90 next year. And each sister that's died, I've had some experience, mostly when I've been pondering about them and their life and our relationship, and some experience has happened. And the one with my aunt, I found to be the most laugh out, my Aunt Darlene, the most laugh out one, because I think, Myrna, I was on the phone talking to you, talking about something related to North Star or the LGBT space or something to that degree. And all of a sudden, I knew that I had also been kind of thinking about my aunt, because she had passed away not too long. And I'm sitting there and we're talking, and all of a sudden, clear as day, through my head, I hear her voices, and she goes, "I didn't know you were gay." And I just kind of chuckled, like, yeah, okay. Like, maybe you should talk to everyone. They've been watching my life for a little while. They have a lot to fill you in on, but it was just like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, we can talk about it if you want to on the other side. Like, it's those little moments that I sometimes have, but I've never seen anyone. I've just had that experience of feeling their presence, or them being in my heart and mind. And it's like I can hear their voice, like I can hear, God. Now, someone could be listening to this right now and think that I'm totally bat crazy, and I'm okay with it. You can comment below on my mental soundness if you would like. But these are experiences that I'm telling you I've had, and that the life beyond, the afterlife, is way closer to us than we give it credit.
And I don't think we listen to it as much as we should. I think we try to block it out more than we really need to. I too have never actually seen anybody that I know, right? But feeling them almost makes it feel like you see them. And it's a different type of feeling than just feeling like somebody's next to you. It's like they're on you. It's the weirdest thing. It's like, okay, I love you, but there's like
there's boundaries, Mom.
Yeah, there's personal space, please. But I wouldn't change it for anything. That time frame that I spent, that month and a half, is what has made it easier for me to adjust to not having my mom here.
Right.
I haven't felt her since, nor anybody else, but for that month and a half, I did, and it's made it so much easier to be able to, because I know she's still alive, right? And I know she's like your dad. My mom dealt with a lot of mental problems. Also, she had deep depression, and struggled with that all of her life. And the biggest thing was that I could tell she was free from all of that. she didn't have that anymore, and she was able to do the things that she wanted to do. I just felt that from her. And I could tell, because I have lost my first child, I know that I lost was, I believe that they're still up there. My mom let me know that she's taking care of them, and I could feel that she finally could be the mom that she wanted to be, that she couldn't be down here because of the challenges that her physical body gave her. And just having that peace of mind that my mom is now out of the bounds of the physical detriments that her body presented for her, the challenge that she had to go through in this life, brings me hope that some of my challenges that come from my physical body will not be challenges for me in the next life. And that brings me hope and a moment of relief that as long as I can continue to follow what my Heavenly Father wants in this life, that will not be a challenge for me anymore.
Wow, guys, we have had quite a few experiences that we shared, and they got pretty personal. And I hope you take with you the love that we have for these members that have passed on, and think about the members in your life, your family members, and what those experiences are. And if there are any that you feel that you'd like to share, please, comment below and share. That it's something hard for all of us. And yet I sometimes think that in the LDS culture, sometimes we're afraid to share those things. We've been told, don't share sacred things or cast your pearls before swine. But there's also something about feeling connected with one another in these stories. And so I just invite you to do that. And we're glad that you were able to listen with us today. And please, as always, look at the YouTube channel. And if you haven't seen any other video, take a look at all of them and spread the word and comment and check out Facebook page if you'd like. And we just really like to connect, guys. Thank you so much for being with us today. Bye.
Bye.